10 years ago, I had the privilege of going to Krakow, Poland. It was part of World Youth Day, which every few years, every 3 or 4 years, the Pope will gather the young people from the world at different places around the world. And that year in 2016, 2 to 3 million people descended upon Krakow, Poland for World Youth Day with Pope Francis. Like I said, I was able to go. I went with a group here from the Diocese of Gary. We went a few days early in order to do some sightseeing of the different historical places and religious spots that we went. And one of the very first places we went is a place I will never forget, a place that haunts my memory sometime, and that is Auschwitz, the concentration camp. It's only a few miles outside of the city of Krakow. And when we walked through it, you just feel the weight of what took place there. It's hard to even comprehend what was going on as you look around at the gas chambers where millions of people were brutally gassed, were murdered by the Nazis. And you look at the barracks where people spent their last days before they were killed, and you just feel the weight of it. There's no other way to describe it, just great evil that took place. Just a few miles from there, we also got to visit a convent where a religious sister known as St. Faustina lived. She died at a young age of 33 years old right before World War II happened. And she is known for that Jesus had appeared to her many times and communicated his divine mercy towards her. This woman, St. Faustina, is probably one of the greatest women of the 20th century. And she wrote in her diaries the prayers, the Divine Mercy Chaplet. She had commissioned a image of the Divine Mercy that you might know of the two rays coming from Jesus's heart. And then right near there, just a few miles away again, all in the same area, is a town called Wadowice, where a young boy, Karl Wojtyła, was born right before World War II happened. And you might know him better as Pope John Paul II, who then promulgated on the second Sunday of Easter, the Sunday after Easter is to be Divine Mercy Sunday. And what I think is so beautiful about this whole thing is it shows that God never abandons his people. That when the moment of the greatest tragedy, the greatest evil that probably took place in the 20th century, Auschwitz and the concentration camps, right in that same place, he was showing his divine mercy, and he was setting up the world to receive that mercy, to get through this great tragedy. We see that Jesus never abandons his people. On the second Sunday of Easter, we read about doubting Thomas. But what's interesting is it says it was the first day of the week, and the disciples were in the room with the door locked because they were afraid. And Jesus comes through the door. Now remember, Jesus has appeared to the disciples. He has shown them, but they're still afraid. But he doesn't abandon his people. He doesn't just give up on the disciples. He doesn't say, well, I guess I'll find some other disciples. No, he walks through the locked door and he says, peace. In the midst of their fear, in the midst of the anxiety, but he says, peace. And then we read how Thomas was not there. And the disciples go to Thomas and say, we've seen him. He's alive. And Thomas, poor Thomas, doubting Thomas, that's what he's known as, is a doubter. He says, unless if I put my hand in his side and see the nail marks on his hands and his feet, I will not believe. And Jesus, because he is divine mercy, because he doesn't give up on his people, showed up and appeared to Thomas, came through the locked door again and says, here, put your hand in my side, look at the nail marks on my feet and on my hand, and do not be unbelieving, but believe. That's what divine mercy is. Divine mercy is never giving up on his people. God never gives up on you or me either, even when we feel maybe the darkest in our life, the most hopeless. Jesus always shows up. And that's what divine mercy is about, is one sense is receiving that mercy, to receive the mercy from God, but then the other is to give it. We're not just called to take, right? We're not just students of mercy, but then we're disciples of divine mercy, that we then go out and live that out. Mercy and forgiveness, I would say, are so intimately attached. You don't have one without the other. You need to have mercy and forgiveness together. We say in the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others who have trespassed against us. We can replace that, Lord, give us your mercy as we have shown mercy to others. We all have that person that we need to forgive, that person that we need to extend that mercy that Jesus has shown us to that person who maybe is in great need of mercy in your own life. At the end of World War II, the concentration camps were liberated. And there was this woman, Fraulein van Brun, who was in the concentration camps. She saw her friends be murdered in front of her. Her own sister was tortured and killed in the concentration camps, and she miraculously survived. Later, after being freed, she encountered Jesus. She became a Christian, and she went all through Europe, all through the world, then throughout the next, decades, talking about forgiveness, talking about what it was like to be in the concentration camps and that forgiveness that Jesus gives. And one day she was speaking in Germany at one of these talks, and a guy waits until the end and then comes up to her at the end of the talk as everybody was leaving, and he introduced himself and he said he was one of the guards in the concentration camp that she was at. But not just one of the guards, he was in her cell block. That he was probably the one who tortured her sister. And he says, after the war was done, he encountered Jesus, and he's a Christian, and he knows that God can forgive, and he's asking now, Fraulein van Brun, will you please forgive me for what I've done to you, to the people whom you love? And she says she looked at him, and all she could feel in her heart was hate. Was hate for what he had done to the people whom she loved the most. And at that same moment, she called upon Jesus, called upon that divine mercy, and she was overwhelmed with that mercy. And she extended her hand and says, I forgive you. She says, thank goodness God's divine mercy and his love is so much greater, so much more potent than our hate. We all have somebody that we need to forgive, and maybe you're feeding on that hate. This Divine Mercy Sunday, this Divine Mercy season of Easter, call upon Jesus to send his divine mercy into your life. God bless.